got some Seattle Seahawks rumors for you guys today before we get into our Seahawks mailbag. Let's talk about Pete Carroll. How much more time does he have left as head coach of the Seattle Seahawks? Field Goals, the Seahawks SB Nation site, it's speculated he could retire soon. They mentioned as soon as after this season. I'm not sure that's the case, but there are some interesting points that I did want to acknowledge here from SB Nation. The main core of the argument and the speculation was the way this Seahawks roster is constructed right now, with a bunch of veterans not tied to Seattle for the long term. They've only got two non-rookies, guys named Bobby Wagner and Russell Wilson, plus the kicker Jason Myers, but does that even really count, frankly? Signed beyond the 2021 season, and Carroll's contract expires then as well. And although he looks great for his age, Carroll does turn 69 before the season actually begins. He's been one of the best coaches in the NFL since he took over as the Seahawks head coach. The track record speaks for itself. Look, when you're averaging 10 wins a year as a head coach, you're doing something right. Now, he only has the one Super Bowl, but you know what? One is far better than zero, and of course, we know how close it was to almost being two. So I'm not convinced Carroll's going to call it a career after this year. But I think it's a fair question to bring up because he is the oldest head coach in the NFL. He's going to turn 70 before the 2021 season, even though he, again, looks fantastic for his age. So everyone in the comments predicts for me, how many more years do you think Pete Carroll will be the Seattle Seahawks head coach? Let's talk on the field then here. An interesting report coming out of the Seahawks Sports Illustrated site was that Seattle is looking into adding potentially several free agent defensive tackles. They're at least looking at multiple guys. Damon Harrison was one named target. Timmy Jernigan was kind of more of the speculative other one because his deal fell through with the Houston Texans. It's an, I think, interesting idea for Seattle. I think it does make some sense. Obviously, we've talked a lot about Seattle adding a potential defensive end, but defensive tackle also makes sense for the Seattle Seahawks. It almost depends on what type of role you want that defensive tackle to fill. I'm a big fan of Poona Ford, should have been drafted. Jarran Reed is back with Seattle on a shorter-term deal. But that's kind of it when it comes to what I consider reliable options at defensive tackle. Now, L.J. Collier, Rasheem Green, they can kick inside. So do you want someone who's a little bit more of a pass rusher? That could be a Timmy Jernigan, maybe a Mike Daniels if he can ever fully stay healthy. Or do you want another bigger body on the interior to be a potential run stopper? I think Damon Harrison at this point probably would be pretty darn cheap, would be a brilliant pickup by the Seattle Seahawks to help out a run D that I think could use some more help. Maybe Marcel Darius could also end up being an option. I'll let you guys in on a secret here. First off, you guys have brought it. You Seahawks fans are on fire right now with the job you've done of getting these subscribers numbers up here for our new Seahawks channel. But YouTube doesn't let us really get going as a channel until we get to 1,000 subscribers and a whole bunch of watch time. So we are not far away from the 1,000 subscriber mark. So if you have not already, hit that big red button, subscribe, tell a friend, and make sure you're watching for a decent amount of time as well. Help that out. We're coming up next with our next Seattle Seahawks mailbag. We're going to begin, though, with some trade ideas that have come in. First up from Alfred Gloria, a Jamal Adams trade to the Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks get, of course, Adams, and the Jets get a first-round pick, a third-round pick, and Bradley McDougall. Alfred, by the way, really wants Jamal Adams on the Seahawks. In terms of the value, I think it's about right if, of course, and it's a big if, the Jets do decide to move on from Jamal Adams. It'd be a great pickup for the Seattle Seahawks. Adams would come in and, I think pretty quickly, well, maybe Bobby Wagner too, be one of at least the top two players on that Seahawks defense. That's a pretty dynamic defensive duo there, Adams and Wagner. If the Jets are smart, though, right, they're not going to trade Adams. They're going to find a way to extend him, get him done. The alleged reporting asking price is a first and a third round pick. The Jets want to keep Adams, but they're going to listen if teams call and offer trades. And if it came down to between, say, the Seahawks and the Cowboys, I think the Jets would rather send Adams to Seattle. Now, I'm not sure how much McDougall really moves the needle for the Jets, but if you bring in Adams, you, of course, don't need McDougall anymore. So you try and include him in there, and maybe he becomes a backup or a starter or whatever for the Jets. if you're Seattle, I think you're all over this idea if, of course, the Jets are willing to move him. I know that's an expensive price. Of course, you got to make Adams one of, if not the highest paid safeties in the NFL. But if I'm Seattle, I'm all over it. So who says no to this trade? Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. Type SEA for Seattle says no, or type NYJ, of course, if the Jets end up saying no. I think it makes sense for Seattle, just not convinced the Jets end up doing it. Another trade coming in from Morgan Danielson. Now, Morgan also kind of reduced the trade when I responded that maybe it was a little too much Seattle was giving up. The end offer is the Seahawks get O.J. Howard, and the Bucs get a 2021 second and a 2021 third round pick. Look, O.J. Howard's great. He'd be a nice addition for Seattle in terms of player value and impact, and just being a really good tight end and likely a future long-term starter for Seattle. And I get the Bucs add Rob Gronkowski. Howard maybe becomes on the trade block along with Cameron Brate. The Bucs, however, say their offense is going to be a two tight end base offense. I'm inclined to believe that. And frankly, I think the Seahawks are giving up too much. I don't think Howard's worth a second and a third. I'm not even convinced he's worth a second. But for Seattle, do they need another tight end? I like O.J. Howard, but when you look at the way this team is built, they have enough tight ends. They got Greg Olsen. They got Will Dissly. In this scenario, you'd probably cut or trade Jacob Hollister. But you signed Luke Wilson. You drafted two this past year. Find someone who loves you, like the Seahawks love tight ends. I think Seattle says no. I'm going to type in my 12s because you guys know who the real 12s are. I'm not going to type in TB. I think that's, frankly, an overpay for a tight end. I think Seattle ends up saying no in that particular trade. I don't think it's a great path to give up that much for another tight end. Now, we have launched our Seahawks-only YouTube channel, so everyone watching here on our main Chat Sports channel, if you're a Seahawks fan, go subscribe. The link there is below, and I'll make it the pinned comment too, so all you guys got to do is click. But it's chatsports.com/SeahawksTV. If you are a Seahawks fan, we are almost at 1,000 subscribers. You guys have done a fantastic job, so go tell a friend and subscribe today. Next up from Connor McLean, with the recent early round draft picks that the Seahawks have made, Penny, Collier, and Brooks, do you think they have a plan? Can any of them work out and produce? Got to be careful here because you guys haven't liked my reactions to Seahawks first-round draft picks in recent years. LJ Collier has not looked very good. I think Jordan Brooks will play a role in year one. I think Rashaad Penny has a chance to make an impact if he can ever stay healthy. I didn't like the picks at the time, quite frankly. If I have to pick one, I think for this upcoming year, because Penny has the injury issues, I think Jordan Brooks, given how often Seattle uses three linebackers, I think Brooks might be the most likely to produce this year. I still think Penny might have the most upside as a potentially, frankly, dynamic back. But let me know what you guys think. RP for Penny, LJ for LJ Collier, or JB for Jordan Brooks. Next up, Cameron K. Can the Hawks get a dynamic edge duo in Marcus Golden and Everson Griffin if we make some cuts like Hollister? First, a quick note. You save over $3 million, almost $3.26 million if you cut him, so you could make some money there. We haven't seen much talk, at least I haven't seen much talk around Golden in Seattle. I still think Everson Griffin would be a better fit for the Seattle Seahawks. I just think he's a more consistent, yes, older, but a more consistent player. And I think that's backed up by the average over the past 4 years. Yeah, Golden missed some time, so did Griffin. But Golden's been really, frankly, inconsistent. Some really highs and then just some years where he's not making much of an impact. So of the two, I'm going with Everson Griffin. Across the board, I think he's more productive, more impactful. And I think it also maybe fits Seattle's timeline a little bit more, where you bring in Griffin on a one-year deal, and maybe you hope that one of the other edge rushers ends up making an impact. If you want to bring in both, I'm open to it. I just wonder if the Seattle can actually afford both of those guys without making some major cuts like a Quandre Diggs, which I don't want to do if I'm Seattle. So if you can only pick one, who is it? Type EG for Everson Griffin or type MG for Marcus Golden. I'm going to type in my EG, but I do want to hear what you guys have to say. The NFL and Fanatics have launched their Stronger Together t-shirts with their proceeds, by the way, going to the United Way's COVID-19 Community Response and Recovery Fund. And you know what? I think the Seahawks have the best version of the Stronger Together t-shirts. The green and the blue, it works really well with the gray shirts and the gray hoodies. So go check out what they have. They are on sale, by the way, at chatsports.com/Seattle Strong. We'll put that link in the comments and the description. Make your life just a little bit easier. But go check them out. They are on sale for under $15 for those t-shirts at chatsports.com/Seattle Strong. From Jamie, nickel corner is a major issue left untouched on the roster. Who do you think would best fill that role? In terms of the players on the roster, I think Ugo Amadi would be my choice. Now, I liked him quite a bit coming out of Oregon. Didn't play a ton last year, was much more of a special teamer than he was like a key cog on that defense. But there were some flashes when he was actually asked and allowed, I should say, to play that nickel corner role. Now, Seattle, and I disagree with this, but Seattle uses more base defense, i.e. 4 defensive linemen and 3 linebackers, any team in the NFL. Not a huge fan of that strategy, but it's because they were thin at corner last year, so I kind of get it. If I'm Seattle and I look around at what that depth chart looks like, I see Griffin. You can maybe throw Quentin Dunbar into the nickel at times, but I want to keep him on the outside more than that. So I got Amadi, Trey Flowers, Nico Thorpe. Brian Allen's an outside guy too. The rest of those players, frankly, not many people have heard of, especially even some outside Seattle. A lot of these guys are undrafted free agents. So maybe one impresses. But of the guys on the roster, Amadi's the one that jumps out to me. We did a Seahawks breakout player video. I almost went with him. I think that could have been a good choice for the Seahawks. Many of you wanted DK Metcalf. I get that too. But let me know in the comments, who do you think should be Seattle's nickel corner? And you know what? If you want to sign someone not on a roster right now, I think that also makes sense. Which brings us to Nicole's question. What veteran corner could you see Seattle signing? There are some players out there that I think might make some sense. For example, in that nickel corner role, Logan Ryan could fill that. Darqueze Dennard has played nickel corner, so it depends on what you want. If you feel confident Dunbar will be on the team and will avoid all the legal issues, then maybe you go nickel, so a Ryan or a Dennard. If you don't, maybe you go outside corner. That could be Tremaine Johnson. That could be Aqib Talib. That could be Drake Kirkpatrick. For the cost I think that they'll require to sign a contract, I think Johnson and Dennard might make the most sense for the Seattle Seahawks. As mentioned, our goal is to get our new Seahawks channel to 1,000 subscribers. YouTube doesn't really take us seriously until we get to that mark and a whole bunch of watch time. So tell a friend. I'm sure you Seahawks fans, you're some of the best fans we've seen here at Chat Sports. You guys got friends. So tell them to subscribe to our Seahawks channel at chatsports.com/SeahawksTV. Hit that big red button. From Meme Goat, great name with a dog, funny enough. Who is a better backup running back, Rashaad Penny or Carlos Hyde? It's a great question. I think part of it depends on what you want out of your backup running back. Do you want someone who offers you a little bit more game-breaking ability? That's Penny. His yards per carry last year when he was healthy was pretty darn impressive. It was at 5.7 yards per carry last year. Carlos Hyde, meanwhile, is a little bit more steady, a little bit more consistent, reliable, especially in light of Penny's injury issues. So if you just want reliability, if you just want that, I think you'd go with Carlos Hyde. But if you're kind of swinging more for the fences, trying to get some big plays, I'm going to go with Rashaad Penny. So it's a really good question. With Penny's injuries, I might lean toward Hyde for this year, but long term, I think I'm actually going to go with Penny. So cast your votes, RP for Penny, CH for Carlos Hyde. From Tate Anderson, I saw Chris Carson liked Adam Schefter's tweet about Dalvin Cook holding out. Should we be concerned about a potential Chris Carson holdout as well? I think at some level, yes, but I think it's far less likely that Carson holds out next compared to Cook or compared to Joe Mixon, for an example. Carson is entering the last year of his deal. He hasn't made very much money in the NFL, but he's also coming off a hip injury that ended his 2019 season. And I think it often comes down to leverage. And I think for Seattle, they'd call Carson's potential bluff of a holdout. The new CBA means players must report to camp or by camp to accrue a season. Otherwise, they don't get it, which means Carson doesn't get to reach free agency next year. And on top of that, fines can't be waived. So if Carson holds out for all of training camp, what ends up happening is because fines are paid out after taxes, it costs him money to play football this year with what his contract looks like. And Seattle can just go with, you know what, we got all these backs, we'll just roll with Carlos Hyde. So at some level, yeah, I think it's a concern, but I would be surprised if Carson really took that approach come training camp.